Hello everyone, my name is Dark, and welcome to TCC 2024 results. Today is round 3, which is the alumni deciding round. So, yeah, this is gonna be a pretty exciting bout of results, if I say so myself. So, yeah, how are y'all doing today? Are you doing good? Are you doing awful? Are you doing, I don't know. Wow, Athena is giving me money. I can't believe this. You all should do that, I think. You should all give me money. I think that would be really funny. I turned mid I turned midnight 2 hours ago. I don't think that's a sentence, but good job. Happy birthday. Oh, it turned midnight. Okay, that makes sense. All right. Wow, you guys' chat messages are so boring. Let's move on to the prompt. Anyway, the round 3 prompt, in case you forgot, are um, it was many conspiracy theories are centered around how the government is lying to citizens, covering up important events, historical documents, deaths of famous activists, and so on. But as it turns out, not every conspiracy is as high stakes as those. You've just uncovered proof for the most mundane, boring government conspiracy imaginable. What was the government covering up and why? So, as you all know, 16 players submitted one response each for this prompt, and the vote counts were pretty good. Not quite as high as last time. I mean, I guess we can't be breaking records every single round, but it was pretty good. 86.50 VPR, which is the third highest of all time. So yeah, thank you all who voted. Everyone except that one person, literally just one person, who didn't super vote, only voted on one screen. You know who you are. I'm not gonna say your name, of course, because the entire point is that I only read the super voters' names. And that's what I'm about to do right now. Uh, God damn it. Fucking one day we're gonna get an amount of super voters that's actually divisible by 3 so that this fucking free column setup can look good. But today is not that day, I guess. And yeah, this list includes literally everyone who voted except one person. So that's awesome. Anyway, time to read names again. That's so fun. All right. Super voters were Aaron, ACN, Adamanti, Algo, Ameliorator, Anartichoke, Arnoob, Avocado, AXN, Azurite, BFDIA Fan 5346, Big Beater, Series, Cole, Cool Gamer 707, Cringe Cat, That Fat Cat 137, Dragon, Abe, Fish on the Internet, Ghost 256, G-Man, Gold Blocks, Gray Sandwich, Harry Soaps, Henry, How, which is Finimations, Infinifret, iRDM, Iron Ninja 1116, Italic, ITOD, J-Dude, Jack4, JEIVC, Joe Man, Julian SL, Capco, Kenzol, Koopa, Lemon Venom 23, Luzard, Lime, Life Nova, Maple Sky, Me Like Pie 50, Meowie, Minus, Morality, Navy, Newt Newt Mans, Normal Ben, No Starry IDK, Not a Dona, Onchú, Orbi, Asha, Q Uni, Random Gamer 123, Ref 32 Locked Out, Scorb, Sergeant Snivy, Smooth, Snoozing Newt, Snow Bleedin', Spooky, Starsight, Stealthy Septile, Thane, That Nerd Albert, TieTiePerson, Trojan, Twiggy, Veilburger, Verigold, Viridian, voii, White Cyclosa, Whole Note 1, Whiskcause, Knoppet, XX Bombs Away XX, Zyloba, Yonelius, Yukim, and Zettex. Yukim is not the last person this time. That's so awesome. Anyway, let's go. This is awesome ASMR. True. Fucking dark read super voter names ASMR. That's so cool. I'm gonna drink some water. Anyway, what else is there to mention? Oh yeah, speaking of spooky inconspicuously saying that we don't have to start results now, let's talk about the reveal order. So essentially the reveal order this time is just going to be the same as round 1, which if you don't remember was essentially we took the top seed from each matchup. So for example, Onchú versus Spooky, it's seed 60 versus seed 44. So the top seed there is going to be Spooky with seed 44. And we sort all those matchups so that the top seed of the matchup is, I guess, increasing in quality, but decreasing in value. So basically, the 1 seed, which is TieTie, and his matchup, which is TieTie versus Bombs, is going to be last. And first up is going to be Onchú versus Spooky. So, yeah. I.e. Trojan's last? No, that's not correct. You fucked that up. Anyway, anything else to say? I don't think so. Guess we can just start. Anyway, yeah, there's a lot on the line in this round. In case you didn't already know, because everyone who survives is gonna make it to alumni, and everyone who dies is just gonna get some pat on the back and an elimination. So yeah, today things are going to be pretty special. So let's head on this journey to something unique. 16 contestants are about to step up, but only 8 will leave. So let's start. Onchú and Spooky. Again, only one of them can make it to alumni, and these are their responses. Onchú's response was, amidst adoption discrimination, veterinary paper orange cat IQ analyses vanished. Which, right off the bat, we're starting out with a very humor-based response, which, I mean, I think it does have quite a lot of humor, but I feel like part of that is also due to the fact that I think this prompt in general, like, sort of required humor in a way in order to, like, make it make sense with the whole, like, the government is covering something up, like, they're going out of their way to cover something up, but it happens to be something really mundane and boring. So I think that alone, just in order to have an interesting concept to that, it does have to leverage the humor a bit. But even in that context, I think Onchú's response goes a bit beyond that. It references the whole, the funny, I guess, internet stereotype of how orange cats are, like, dumbasses for some reason. I never actually understood that. I guess that's just because I'm not a cat owner, but, yeah. I mean, still, I've seen that, that meme around quite a lot. Maybe voters haven't, though, so, that is a point of risk. Maybe if people don't really understand that, sort of internet culture reference, they might be tempted to vote it a bit low, but other than the whole humor aspect of it, the whole reliance on the orange cat thing, this response offers a pretty interesting, like, concept in general, like the whole, like, what is the government trying to prevent by doing this conspiracy, and it's adoption discrimination, which I guess is, like, not exactly like something you would imagine the government would be caring about, but it's also not something completely disconnected either, so it has that sort of midway appeal of, like, both answering the prompt and picking something unexpected, and also picking something that, like, I don't know, sounds bad enough that the government might do something about it, although realistically, probably not really. So, anyway, very humor-based, has a nice sort of association with the prompt, pretty interesting response in general. And Spooky's response was, the Pentagon's geometric imperfection, covert occultist defenses specialized in hexes. The joke here being the whole pentagon thing, and the thing that the government is covering up presumably is the fact that it's secretly a hexagon. And this relates to the whole hexes thing, and the whole occultist defenses thing that the government apparently also has, and that they're also trying to cover up. So that's a lot of meaning, which was conveyed in just 10 words, although a lot of it is implicit, so it is a bit debatable whether voters might have actually gotten all of that. Like, there's already people in the chat like Fish saying, oh, so that's what it meant. And yeah, this was the original intent. Spooky actually had a previous version of this response that did mention specifically, that didn't mention the hexagon specifically to make it a more direct association with the whole pentagon thing. But they ended up changing that, which might have been a bit of an L for clarity, but I think it was a nice way, at the very least, to try to convey some more meaning in the words that they had. So I think, just in general, off of the fact that this relies on some sort of a pun slash wordplay, I guess, it is a bit risky, but can lead to very good results if the voters understand what the response is going for, which some of them might, some of them might not have. So yeah, I think that's I think that's all there is to say. I think both of these responses are fairly risky in their own ways, and it's going to be a pretty interesting matchup either way. And again, remember, one of these is going to make it to alumni, and one of these is going to be eliminated right now. So let's see which one is going to be the first one to fall in this round 3 results of TCC 2024. And Onchú is eliminated. Despite 2 very good performances in the first 2 rounds, unfortunately stumbles with 37% in the round that decides it all for alumni, which is unfortunate. But Spooky, riding a massive wave of really good performances these past 3 rounds, makes it to alumni with a very nice 64%. So I guess the voters did end up getting what Spooky was going for, and unfortunately for Onchú, I guess they were a bit too partial to the whole orange calf thing and the reference that I was trying to go for. Maybe they didn't understand it, maybe they didn't find it particularly funny, but yeah. Overall, it is what it is. Spooky moves on, and Onchú is eliminated. So let's move on to the second matchup of tonight, and it's going to be Be Like Pi 50 versus Italic. And so we begin. This is the Seed 42 matchup as opposed to the Seed 44 one last time. Me Like Pi 50's response was, lactose intolerant senators redact soy from labels, preventing dairy-based assassinations, which I mean, I think the humor in this response, I guess similar to Onchú's, is played up quite a lot with the whole soy thing. And yeah, I think the concept itself, though, is quite interesting, if a bit overly specific. I mean, it sort of relies on this imagery of, like, the senators are, like, trying to prevent getting assassinated, which obviously makes sense, and they're doing so by, I guess, preventing a possible avenue of assassination, which is getting lactose poisoning, which is a bit more of a stretch, but I think with the whole humor, I guess it might end up working out for Me Like Pi, although, again, usually risky to do stuff like that. But yeah. So what else? I mean, I guess in the way that this response is pretty direct, in the way that it gives the government a very specific like very applicable reason to cover up the thing, which in this case I guess is soy labels, which is quite funny. And I think in that sense it might gain some points over other responses that were a bit more indirect as to how exactly that concerns the government, which, for example, is Italic's response applies to that. Italic's response was, ice cream melting is artificially induced. Planned obsolescence ruins everything, which is a nice, pretty simple, short and sweet concept. It's pretty easy to understand, and I think it works well as a conspiracy that most people might be able to understand. The whole, ice cream melting is actually because of the government, which fits the prompt pretty well by being something that's fairly low stakes. But I think the part where I think the why part of the prompt is left a bit more implicit. It just says planned obsolescence ruins everything, which, I mean, I guess sort of fits if you're thinking of like a malicious government trying to like make life worse for its citizens by melting their ice creams, which honestly, 1984, can't imagine something worse. But yeah, I think in that sense it's pretty funny, like the way this response ends, which again also adds some humor, which is a big component of the prompt naturally. So I think it does earn some bonus points for that, especially in the field of such how can I say this, complicated, I guess. I don't know if complicated, like a lot of the responses, a lot of people had trouble parsing how they fit with the prompt, and I guess having a short and sweet concept such as this one might be a bit of an antidote to that and might make it stick out a bit positively in the voters' eyes among such a response pool. But nonetheless, it has its ups and downs, this response, just like Me Like Pies, so it's going to be an interesting matchup to see. And we're going to see here, these two are very low seeds, similar to last matchup, so it's going to be quite interesting to see that one of these is going to be making it to Alumni, the final 8 of TCC, but one of them is going to have to drop now, so let's see which one it is. And tragedy strikes for Italic as Me Like Pie wins, taking it by a mere 1.29%, which is the closest matchup we've ever seen so far, beating Onchú versus Navy from round 1, which was ever so slightly farther apart. And yeah, very unfortunate for Italic, Me Like Pie takes it. Seed 58 is making it into Alumni, which, now that we already know that Onchú, the 60 seed, is eliminated, is the lowest seed that's going to be making it to Alumni. Confirmed, because everyone else we have to reveal is a higher seed than them. So, yeah. Great job to Me Like Pie 50 on beating the odds, especially with a seed 58 level bracket, which is naturally going to be way harder than a higher seed. And Italic, unfortunately, is going to have to be leaving us, despite having some very good performances, a very good performance last round especially, and a very close finisher beating out J-Dude. But unfortunately, close as it was once again, Italic is on the short end of the stick this time, and is going to be leaving us now. Goodbye. And now, matchup number 3, everyone. Catworld steps up to face Viridian. And Catworld's response, oh boy, it was Biden's a lizard person, hiding iguana personas out of embarrassment, which was a response that was very much talked about in TCC discussion. So let's look at the response sort of based on its merits. It definitely is a really funny thing to imagine, just in general, like, you gotta admit. And it is, like, I guess, similar to Me Like Pie's response, it uses the humor to create a pretty direct form of answering the prompt, something that directly concerns the government because it's obviously embarrassing, like as the response itself says. So in that sense, it was very easy to understand, which is always a plus. Yeah, seeing as it's sort of a bit topical, or I guess not topical enough now that Biden dropped out of the race, although he is still president, so I guess it's sort of topical. But in that sense that it's sort of current events themed, and it goes quite far with the humor, it might end up being quite controversial with the voters, and yeah. I don't think there's much else to say about that. The response is pretty simple, pretty short and elegant, and so is Viridian's response, honestly. Viridian's response being, fruit trafficking, harboring exotic banana peels, slip-ups were costly, which is also, I guess, something that you could easily imagine as something the government might cover up. I guess it might not be as low stakes, if you're thinking about, like, the scale of what the government does, but, hey, the whole fruit trafficking thing checks out, and it's used to make a pretty solid wordplay at the end there with the whole slip-ups, banana peels, and that's sort of where it ends. It doesn't really, I guess, there's no explanation for why the government is doing all that, although I guess with trafficking in general, the concept is probably going to be that financial benefit, something like that. I don't know. I guess it doesn't really matter too much. But yeah, this response pretty much simply just sets up a punchline, a wordplay joke, and delivers it fairly decently. And yeah, I don't know. I guess the one thing that I guess is a bit of a loose end with this response is that the whole pun side of the response is kind of used to describe, like, slip-ups were costly, so, like, what does that mean exactly? Like, they can't slip up, they can't make mistakes regarding covering this up, which, like, is that it? Like, I feel like there might have been a bit something missing there in that sense, but yeah, I think in general both of these responses are pretty simple, and yeah, there's not much to talk about. I think both of them have their highs and have their lows, and I think both of them definitely do have their, if I'm going to be honest, their fair share of missed potential. But yeah, so I don't know. I think that's all I have to mention. So this matchup is definitely going to be pretty interesting. So yeah, Catworld versus Viridian. 2 consecutive seeds, as people have pointed out already, 40 versus 41. So let's see which one of them is going to move to Alumni and which one of them is going to fall right now. And yeah, unfortunate for Catworld, but there really isn't much else that can be said about that. Unfortunately, I think Catworld just straight up kind of misread the tone of the prompt a bit, or at least like sort of the tone that these responses would have, and the response ended up being kind of out of place because of it. So yeah, Viridian with a pretty decent score of 51% moves on to Alumni. So yeah, great job to Viridian. I think the, as people were saying earlier, the only child to be alive in TCC, and yeah, makes it to Alumni. Good job, even though you skipped the first matchup, so you only had to win 2 of them. So yeah, Mickey Mouse Alumni, SMH, I can't believe you did that, etc. And okay. In all seriousness though, congratulations and commiserations to Catworld. So yeah, let's move on. the fourth matchup of today, which is the last matchup of the first half, is going to be voii versus Not a Donut. And this one is going to be interesting as well. So voii's response was palm trees, genetic modification grant bushes, unnatural height, preventing high fives. I only have one thing to say about this response, which that it should be grant, not grant, SMH. Oh my god, this is such a trash response. Oh my god, I can't believe it. Anyway, just kidding. Yeah, this was a bit of a sort of imagery-based response, and yeah, it does sort of extract humor from it. The whole like palm trees just being bushes but tall, and I don't think it's very clear what like the whole association with the whole high fives thing is. I guess it's just sort of meant to fit the whole theme of increasing the height of the plant, but other than that, I don't think it does sort of strike much of the tone of why exactly the government is covering this up. Although I guess part of the humor is in that fact, the whole like, why would the government be doing this side of it? Like, why does the government care that like bushes are tall so that they can't be high-fived? And I guess there's some sort of humor about that, which I guess sort of tracks with all like the meme conspiracy theories, etc. That general sort of internet joke, which I think voii was more successful in channeling than most of the responses. But yeah, other than that, it's pretty funny to imagine, but not much more than that. And Not a Donut's response was 6 multiple choice options. Students subconsciously spread anarchy, answering dead fed. And I think this is quite an interesting way to tie into the whole why the government is doing that thing. Although I was surprised to see a lot of people in TCC discussion not quite understanding sort of the point behind this response or what it means. Maybe the whole dead fed thing was a bit less obvious to people than it might have been to me. But yeah, I think this response does do a pretty good job at associating the whole the whole why of it with an interesting concept, the multiple choice options thing. I saw people sort of suggesting that it might have been inspired by the TWOW roulette prompt that we did about that was the image prompt with the test and it has an F in it, and some people wrote responses suggesting that it was actually the F was just the 6th multiple choice option. But yeah, inspirations on the concept aside, I think this is a pretty interesting concept, hits all the major points of the prompt, but maybe not quite as clear in the minds of some voters as Not a Donut might have hoped. But yeah, I think that's all there is to say about Not a Donut's response. And yeah, voii versus Not a Donut, only one of them can move on to alumni, and one of them is gonna go home right now. And so it ends for voii, and Not a Donut is in the alumni of TCC 2024 with a score that I honestly, just like many people in chat, was surprised to see going towards this response. I guess the whole clarity thing did actually strike the voters more than I expected, but yeah, I thought this response was very good, so it makes me glad to see Not a Donut win, but unfortunately, voii is eliminated despite some very good performances, especially last round, upsetting the free seed Koopa, only to be eliminated this round, which is unfortunate, but that's how it is. And yeah, it's only been 40 minutes of stream so far, but we're already halfway done. I mean, I guess that's what happens when you have only half the matchups to go through every single round. So, in light of this, I will be taking a pretty short break. Not very long. I mean, it hasn't been that long, so I don't think it needs to be anything super long, but maybe like 4 minutes-ish. So, yeah, gonna drink some water. We'll be back in a bit. We're going to finish this out pretty quickly, and yeah, so goodbye, and I'll see you in a bit. Hello everyone, my name is Dark, and welcome to UL6A. Let's see your responses. Anyway, hello everyone. How are you doing? Has your life changed significantly in the past 4 or 5 minutes? Yes, I drank water. Where's Quippy at? Yeah, I got married and divorced. That's awesome. Good job, Scorb. I just won the lottery. You've grown ever increasingly nervous. That's awesome. Just died? Damn, I'm sorry for you. Anyway, enough of you nerds. Let's go back to the reveals. Anyway, 4 matchups have been done already. There's 4 left, and yeah, I don't think there is much else to say. Let's just get this over with. And now, on to the 5th matchup, which is going to be Ghost versus iRDM, the 6th seed versus, I don't remember what seed RDM is, 11. So yeah, pretty high seed matchup, and yeah, Ghost's response was Mega Servers hidden underground, supporting Army's endeavor to push Valorant ranked, which, again, very heavy on the humor. I guess if there is a group of people that sort of you could expect to sort of humorously be associated with pushing Valorant on the job, I guess the Army would sort of make sense. So I guess the response works pretty well in that regard. And yeah, it's a pretty simple concept. The whole line is that just, I mean, I guess it would be kind of embarrassing if they knew how much like of the Army's resources were dedicated to just playing Valorant, which is, I guess, just a funny concept in general. Leans on the humor, easy to understand. I mean, I guess the association between Valorant and the Army might not have might sort of gone over a couple of voters' heads, but I think in general it's pretty fairly understandable, fairly clear, just like Ghost himself. Oh, get it? Anyway, yeah, in that sense, it's just humor-based response, carries a lot of risk with it, yada yada. Same thing as I have made pretty abundantly clear in the past 2 rounds already. And yeah, meanwhile, iRDM's response, Jesus Christ, let's go. Constitutional typos. Originally authorizing declaring war, embarrassed legislators covertly redrafted. Holy shit, what is up with you all in submitting long-ass responses to rounds of TCC? This is 106 characters long. We literally, I don't know if you noticed, we literally had to reduce the font size for iRDM specifically in order for this to fit, which is really funny. But yeah, another wordplay response from iRDM, which is pretty nice. The wordplay thing has been sort of hit or miss these past few rounds, but in general, it's a pretty good bet when done correctly. Again, whole risk thing, but I guess in this prompt that naturally comes with the territory. And yeah, it's sort of, in fact, funny enough, this is just really similar to the exact type of wordplay that iRDM did in round 1, which is just sort of hooking a letter to the end of a word to change its meaning, which is an ironic association. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but yeah. Other than that, and also the fucking Balunga Chunga 106 character wording, this response is pretty easy to understand. I mean, the whole declaring war thing is pretty clear. I don't think a lot of people are going to have trouble understanding that. I think the main pitfall might be people finding this a bit too sort of plain of a response to go for, like a typo in the Constitution that they're covering up, which I guess is not like super boring of a, like, it's not super plain of a concept. Like, it does qualify for the whole boring thing, which is a part of the prompt, which is what I meant, but it might be seen as a bit too heavy onto that side by some people. But yeah, in general, I think that about covers it. And yeah, these two are really high seeds, and both of them have been doing really well these past few rounds. Ghost actually kind of stumbled a bit last round, but in general, two very talented TWOWers who both did really well last TCC as well, all the way back in 2021, 2022. So it's going to be interesting to see, because only one of them can run it back to alumni. So Ghost versus iRDM, let's see which one makes it. And the former #1 seed falls in the round of 16 again. And so it ends for Ghost's runback. Very valiant effort that Ghost has made in the qualifiers these past few rounds as well, in order to sort of retake some of the former glory of being #1 seed last time in TCC 2021. But unfortunately for them, it's just not gonna cut it. And just like 2021, they're gone in round of 16 to a lower seed than they were. So unfortunate that history has to rhyme like this, but iRDM, once again, repeating some history of his own, makes it to top 8 of TCC 2024. A very valiant competitor, has been doing very well recently, and it's very nice to see, especially with such interesting and creative responses. And yeah, great job to iRDM on making it back to the grandest stage of all. And sorry for Ghost, but we're gonna have to move on to matchup number 6, which is going to be Zettex versus FishOnTheInternet. Seed 4 versus Seed 20. Haha, funny 420 joke. Yeah, pretty much. Zettex's response was, hiding UTC plus 25 island allows elites to celebrate holidays slightly earlier, which was sort of pretty on the nose with the humor, like sort of very directly explaining why this is a boring / mundane thing to cover up. And yeah, I think the whole concept is pretty creative. Although I guess the whole UTC plus 25 isn't like, sort of, maybe the correct time zone to go further would have been UTC plus 14, because, I mean, plus 15, because plus 14 is the highest, and plus 24 isn't one that exists, but yeah. In general, it just goes for a concept and hits it pretty well with the whole boringness thing. And yeah, wording-wise, you could technically consider it a bit of an 11-word dodge, with the whole UTC plus 25 being the same word thing. And yeah, but I guess that sort of comes down to pedantry over how exactly you format UTC time zones, but yeah, just pedantry in general. I don't know if voters are going to have cared about that. I didn't see a whole lot of talk about it in TCC discussion, but yeah, I think most of the focus was on the concept, which is pretty solid in general. So yeah, Zettex response, as usual, is pretty solid, as it has been for the past few rounds. And FishOnTheInternet is stepping up. A Brit versus an American once again, funny enough, with the response, constellations are meaningless. Nostalgic astronomers yearn for connect the dots, which is a really nice sort of imagery with the whole association between constellations and connect the dots. I mean, I guess it's not too obscure either. I think the entire idea of constellations sort of evokes that connect the dots thing, which might have made it seem a bit low-hanging fruit and kind of obvious to the viewers, but in general, I think it's a pretty easy concept to understand, like that association in specific, although there isn't much explicitly stating why the government cares about this, and even just how they would be able to control constellations to begin with, but I guess that sort of falls into the realism side of judgment, which I think is just kind of lame to be judging responses based on like their realistic value instead of their like creative value. And in general, there's the whole association between constellations that connect the dots, which is adds to the creativity, and I guess that's it. As to the why, it doesn't really make anything explicit, but yeah. What else is there to say? There was something, I could have sworn there was something else I had written down about this response, but I don't quite remember it. Yeah, that makes sense. The whole sort of they wanted to connect the dots thing, I guess that sort of does that a little bit onto it, like as FishOnTheInternet is explaining her own response in chat right now, but I don't know, I still don't really know what that has to do with the government specifically, but yeah. Oh yeah, and the whole I guess you can interpret it in multiple different ways thing, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, having your response be open to multiple interpretations. It just means that the voters are going to pick what they're going to pick, and if they pick something that they find clever, they're going to vote it higher, maybe even higher than the response author intended. I've seen responses prize with completely unintentional readings by most voters, so yeah, it is possible. But in general, it's just added risk, which I guess in a matchup such as this, being the 20 seed, having to face off against an opponent such as Zettex, it might be a pretty good idea to go for a little bit of risk, leverage as much as you can to have a better chance of taking it all in the upset. But yeah, in general, I think these two responses are pretty contrasting, not a whole lot, not a whole lot of parallels between them, I don't know. Not that I can spot at a glance either way, but yeah. Let's see which one of these is going to make it to Alumni, and which one of these is going to tragically have TWOW drop right now. And unfortunately, FishOnTheInternet falls. The Brits finally see their end in TCC 2024, and the Americans keep moving on. SMH. I can't believe it. But anyway, in all seriousness, Zettex, with a third 60+% performance in a row, proves that he is damn worthy of number 4 seed and damn worthy of being in this alumni. And unfortunately, FishOnTheInternet falls short. Had a great run herself, very valiantly played, especially against such strong opponents. But unfortunately, it's going to have to be ending now. And Zettex, with 65.07%, takes the lead so far in the round with the highest score we've seen so far. So, yeah. Good job to Zettex, commiserations to Fish, and now only 2 matchups remain. Arguably 2 of the most exciting matchups we've seen so far. So, let's get on to it. The second to last matchup is going to be Trojan versus Random. 2 people who, honestly, like, just by the mere nature of this matchup, have a lot riding on this. Trojan has been doing really well, to say the least. You know, just leave a slight euphemism there. Pretty well, pretty good performances. And Random has, obviously, a lot to step up to in going up against Trojan. So, yeah. Let's see the responses, and let's see how this goes. Trojan's response was balloon-popping cabals. Politicians technically fight inflation. Fulfilling campaign promises, which is a pretty sort of tried-and-true whole, with the whole politicians not quite keeping to the promises thing. That's a bit that's sort of pretty commonplace in general in like all political jokes, not even just TWOW or just prompt about the government in TWOW. But yeah, it does tie it in with some wordplay, the whole balloon inflation thing, which is also kind of commonplace. I mean, sort of an expected association there, but in general, I think it fits the prompt pretty well. The whole balloon popping thing is pretty low stakes, obviously, and it gives a fairly reasonable, like within the prompt's logic, explanation of why the government would care about it, like the whole fulfilling promises thing. But yeah, Random's response was interns accidentally shredded the Constitution, necessitating assembly from 50 pieces, which is interesting. I don't know what exactly the 50 is supposed to represent there. I mean, 50 states, I guess, in the US. And actually, just on a whole other tangent, it's pretty funny how a lot of responses seem to like sort of hinge on the whole assuming that the government is the US government aspect of it, which I guess is expected, but it's always funny to see, especially when it's like non-Americans doing it, which I guess it makes sense for that to end up happening with a prompt like this. But yeah, in general, this was I think a response that had pretty funny implications if you really think about it. The whole, like, I guess the Constitution is a bit of a mess because it was literally reassembled after being shredded. And yeah, the 50, as I stated, is a bit of a loose end in the whole thing. I guess I was actually like looking at that and wondering if that had anything to do with like constitutional amendments, but like the whole I had to look up how many amendments there were in the US Constitution, and it's not 50. And yeah, yeah, I know other countries have constitutions, but I'm assuming it's related to America because of the 50 in specific. Like, I mean, that's the only interpretation I see for it. So yeah, in general, I think it's a pretty also slam dunk in answering the prompt. Sort of pretty obvious that they would want to cover this up. Maybe not quite low stakes, although like if you're thinking about it practically, I guess sort of rebuilding a document that was shredded is not really that high stakes to begin with. So hey, it never implies that like the sort of re-putting together of the Constitution had any effect on the final thing. So the stakes are a bit up for interpretation, which might mean that people might have seen this as way higher stakes than it was intended. Maybe it was seen as lower stakes, just like the prompt asked for. But yeah, a bit of risk there, but in general, not necessarily a bad thing, especially on a matchup such as this one. So yeah, Trojan and Random step up. This is a Chimera, a tried and true Chimera TWOW matchup right here. And of course, one of them is going to make it to Alumni, and one of them is going to have to leave us now. So let's see which one it's going to be. And unfortunate for Random, but hey, that's how it happens. Trojan gets 70%, a new round high so far, leading the round for the time being, and obviously makes it to Alumni with just insane performances these past 3 rounds. So very good job to Trojan, obviously. Not much else to say there, just huge amounts of congratulations are in order for having done so well and beating 3 definitely really talented opponents back to back to back, but unfortunately Random is going to have to be leaving us now and falls just short of Alumni. And now, oh boy, on this note, we're moving on to the very last matchup of the night, a matchup that ever since the bracket came out in general, like way back in the round of 64, people were anticipating that would be an insane matchup if those 2 people were to make it to this round. And turns out they both did, and so we get Seed 1, TieTiePerson, the highest seeded player, a legend of TWOW in general, versus XX Bombs Away XX, the undisputed king of TWOW Central events, especially TWOW Central major events, with Seed 17, which just so happens to be the same seed that Fat Cat 137 had in 2021 that they won TCC with. So, a lot of storylines going into this round. A lot of storylines going into this matchup in specific, and a lot of stakes too. One of these 2, clearly very talented TWOWers, is gonna have to fall just short of Alumni, while the other one is gonna move on. So yeah, there is a lot more I could say about the matchup, but in general, yeah. TieTie's response was marginally obtuse angled bedrooms, 95-degree environments require cooling, inflating electricity bills, which is a pun with the whole 95 degrees being both a measure of angle and temperature, although it was a bit weird as to why exactly this needed to be 95 degrees to work. I guess maybe you could say that if it was 90 degrees there was nothing to cover up, but maybe they could have been covering up the reason why most bedrooms are 90 degrees to begin with. But yeah, the whole 95 versus 90 on the temperature side did feel a bit arbitrary, but in general, it's a pretty nice association, the whole temperature and angle thing. It's not like super original as other people have pointed out, but in general it's a pretty nice avenue to go for this, especially since it makes it work with the whole sort of electricity bills being inflated, earning more money for electric companies type deal, which fits with the prompt obviously. And yeah, I guess like the whole this is done specifically to increase electricity bills type of thing is a bit dampened by the whole 90 versus 95 degree temperature thing, which is obviously not a huge difference. So you could easily say, like, why would 95 degrees even be worth like, why would 95 degrees even make a difference in terms of the whole cooling thing and increasing electricity bills, which is fair, although it's driving a bit more into pedantry territory. So yeah, I think in general, very good concept, maybe a bit sort of has a few loose ends on the execution, but in general, classic TieTie response, very solid. XX Bombs Away's response was, jury selections prefer do-gooders, government barometers identify persons of disinterest, which is a funny play on the whole persons of interest thing, perhaps in a way to sort of directly contrast with the whole idea of the whole prosecution thing, prosecuting persons of interest, the jury being made of persons of disinterest, which I guess, if you really stretch it, could be construed as a motive for the whole conspiracy thing, although I guess the jury selections prefer do-gooders alone is sort of a motive in itself, although it is a bit sort of kind of what juries are like in general anyway, depending on how you see do-gooders. I mean, they're not going to put, I think, literal criminals on the jury, I would imagine. So yeah, in that sense, it does sort of hinge on your interpretation of do-gooders for this to be sort of unique from reality at all. But I guess you could also see it as like, this is a pre-established fact that juries obviously prefer people with clean records, and this is why that's an established fact, although in that sense I would have expected it to talk more about the alternative maybe, but in general, lots of sort of theoretical avenues about how this concept could have gone. I think this is an interesting concept in itself, and it's performed with a pretty nice pang of humor to it with the whole persons of disinterest thing, and yeah, in general, really interesting response, especially in contrast to TieTie's, and yeah, I don't know what else I can say about this matchup. I mean, I already spent a lot of time talking about it at the start, but yeah, there is a lot riding on this for both contestants, and it's going to be insane to see no matter which way the hammer comes down. So, TieTiePerson versus Bombs Away walks in, and only one of them can leave. So let's see which one is going to take it. The final alumni spot is going to one of these. So let's see which one it is. And so, the dream of a major event three-peat falls short this year, as Bombs Away is sadly out of TCC 2024. The 17 seed does not get the run back, just like 2021, unfortunately, but nonetheless, TieTiePerson kills it with a 63% score, very nice, and in a matchup like this one, just winning in general is very impressive, and yeah, TieTie knocks it out of the park as usual, and Bombs Away, unfortunately, against such a strong opponent, has to come up short. But overall, that's all she wrote. So, yeah. This was an exciting round. Goddamn, lots of exciting matchups, lots of insane shit happening, and yeah, I don't know what else there is to say other than let's look at the leaderboard. So for the third round in a row, Trojan is at the top spot, which, goddamn, some of y'all are really gonna have to start fucking tryharding in order to get him out of there. Otherwise, he's just gonna win every single round from here on out. So, yeah, keep trying, contestants. You got a lot to live up to right now. So, yeah, other than that, it's quite surprising how sort of balanced the eliminations were. Like, barring FishOnTheInternet, who could have scored 4% lower to make this happen, the bottom 8 were eliminated and the top 8 survived. And yeah, Fish is the only exception, and by just 4% too. So yeah. And Fish does get the honor of being 9th place, so as unfortunate as it is that you had to get so close to alumni and still fall short, you did get the single digit rank, so good job. I hope this is enough of a birthday gift for you, so yeah. Yeah, the matchups, like, I guess in the sense that it was mostly top 8 versus bottom 8 were pretty balanced, although there were still like some very uneven matchups, such as Trojan beating Random by 35%, and even something like Italic losing to Me Like Pie by less than 1.5%. And it's really funny how, despite how small the gap was, Bombs Away still manages to squeeze in there to prevent this from being a 1 rank gap matchup like Trojan versus Avocado last time. So yeah. Most controversial response, I believe, yeah, that was Catworld, funny enough. And look at that VRD. I think that should help explain it. Like, that is a crazy VRD in general. And yeah, it led to a 34.23% standard deviation, which is higher than the score, funny enough. But yeah. The least controversial, which one was it again? Oh yeah, it was Viridian's, which was, I guess, I would say surprising, but it's also kind of hard to say which response I would have expected to be the least controversial. But yeah, Trojan's response came quite close to that distinction, so did iRDM's, but Viridian takes it by a small margin. And 26% is quite a high standard deviation to be the lowest as compared to the last 2 rounds, which I think the least controversial in round 1 was like 19, and then round 2 was like 22. So I guess that is a reflection, firstly, of how even things are becoming with the whole response quality, and also maybe just a reflection of there being fewer responses. So I guess small differences in rankings contribute to different, sort of higher differences in score. Sorry, that's what I meant. And yeah, I guess sort of both of these factors combine to lead to higher standard deviations on average, maybe. But it still doesn't really explain why it's this response in specific. I guess everyone just thought it was kind of mid. But yeah. Overall, yeah, that's okay. Maybe that's a bit mean actually to Viridian, but hey, you survived, so that's good enough. Hey, it pays off being mid if you can still take the victory anyway. So yeah, I think that's about all I have to say for the leaderboard. It's only 16 responses, so yeah, things are shrinking quite rapidly. Not much to say there. And I'm going to move on to the bracket. Oh, the legendary bracket. We had so many interesting matchups this round. TieTiePerson versus Bombs, Catworld versus Viridian with the whole consecutive seeds thing was really interesting. Onchú versus Spooky with their extreme performances. Ghost versus iRDM, Natadona versus voii. All of them had been doing pretty well recently. Me Like Pie, Trojan, etc., etc. And it really paid off with just how interesting these were. And next round is going to be even more fireworks on the board. We have Trojan versus Me Like Pie 50, Seed 2 versus Seed 58. So it's going to be in the hands of the 58 seed to stop Trojan from getting top 4 for the season. Is Me Like Pie 50 going to be able to do it? Maybe, maybe not. We're going to have to see. But I think it's going to be very interesting either way. Here is a matchup that's bound to be super interesting. Natadona versus iRDM. 2 of the most, I think this is possibly maybe the most stacked matchup of the 4 that we have here. And it's pretty clear to see why. I mean, Natadona and iRDM, they both did kind of decent. They scored really close to each other, funny enough. They did sort of decent this past few rounds, but have been killing it with really high scores before that. And in general, just really talented. They've both proven that they can write some banger responses, and I'm very excited to see how this is going to go. Nat and I have the highest combined total percentage. That does sound about right. That would be... does it actually? Actually, I guess maybe it is. Another matchup in a similar vein that I was going to mention is Zettex versus Spooky. 4 versus 484. Holy shit, a lot of 4s. And both of them have been doing really well. Zettex has not dropped below 60% a single time so far. And Spooky has also done really well. 67, 64, a 52 here in the middle, but still a pretty good performance. And both of them have been writing really good responses these past few rounds. Both of them have scored really close to each other, similar to iRDM versus NAD here, but even higher with 65 and 64. So it's, again, going to be very interesting to see how this is going to go for both of them. It's going to be, I mean, in a way, you could say that if Spooky wins, it's going to be a really big upset, but with how talented Spooky has proven to be, I'm honestly not even sure if it would be that big of an upset. I mean, both of these are really talented TWOWers, so I really could see this going either way. And here we have, really interestingly enough, the matchup of both people who got buys in round 1, TieTie and Viridian. So this is going to be interesting to see. Both of these SMH Mickey Mouse runs didn't even have an opponent for round 1. Oh my god, I can't believe it. One of their runs is going to come to an end next round, which is going to be very interesting to see. And obviously Viridian has his work cut out for him, having to face up against TieTie. But overall, it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, TieTie has been doing pretty well, scored kind of a mediocre score in round 2, which might just be enough leeway for Viridian to maybe sneak in and take it. So yeah, I think by pure virtue of the fact that we are on Final 8, all of these matchups are really interesting because everyone who's here has fought through a lot and proven themselves quite a lot in order to get here in the first place. So yeah, I'm very excited to see how these are going to go, not the least of which because next round is going to have universal DRPs. Everyone who's alive gets to submit 2 responses to the next prompt, and the next prompt is going to come out tomorrow. So that's going to be interesting to see how that's going to shift the whole dynamics of it. So yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting. Might be a bit stressful for our fellow contestants, but hey, they're going to have to prove that they can handle it if they want to be the best. And goddamn, there's a lot of competition ahead of everyone here on that road to prove that they're the best. So yeah, oh boy, things are exciting. So what did you all think of this round? Did you like it? Did you find it funny? Did you find it awesome and epic? I'm not gonna end stream until I get at least 50 quintillion answers to this question. I like the part where I was not eliminated. That's awesome. I died. I didn't like it. No. It's okay, Fish. They don't know about the secret finale twist yet where we bring you back and we rig you to get like 99%. Was based but nerfed Trojan? Hey, that's up to the contestants, not me. You guys gotta fucking boss the fuck up. Especially now that everyone has true responses. It's gonna be really interesting to see how it goes. So yeah. I don't know if there is anything else to say. I hope you guys have been enjoying so far. It's been a damn interesting road so far, and we're only halfway done. We have 3 rounds ahead of us, which are arguably going to be the most interesting rounds yet. So honestly, I can't wait to see how the rest of this goes. It's going to be so awesome, and I hope you all stick around to see it as well, even those of you who are getting eliminated. So yeah, I think that's all I have to say. Hope you all enjoyed the show. I might look for someone who's live that I can raid. I don't know. Can I slash raid browser. That's the one. Let's see if I can. Oh my god, it doesn't let me full screen this. That's so sad. No. No, what is it doing? No, that's not. No. That's silly. Okay, there we go. Now I can see it. Okay. Where's my chat doc? Oh my god, I fucking ruined it all. It's all over. OBS has fucking broken on me. It's so over. Anyway, I'm just gonna raid someone and then the. Who do we have? I don't know if there's like any like TWOWers sort of streaming right now. So I don't know who to raid, honestly. I guess I'll just stick to the tribe. I'll just raid a random Minecraft speedrunner who's currently live. If the fucking... Does it not? It doesn't work. No, it does work. Okay. Okay, fuck it. I'm just gonna raid Raynex. It's gonna be funny. Anyway, go watch Minecraft speedruns. Minecraft speedruns are awesome. And you will watch them. Anyway, yeah, I can't really think of anyone better to raid right now, so yeah. But anyway, yeah, hope you guys have fun. Thank you all for being here. It's been one hell of a ride, and we're only gonna keep going, so yeah, that's all. Thank you all for watching.